So I've been doing the self-employment thing for over 10 years now, and I thought I would hop on here and make a video about my personal top favorite benefits of being self-employed. So just a little bit of background into how I got to being self-employed. Growing up, I always thought I'd work a traditional 9 to 5, just because I think that's the path that most people in my area were taking, and I don't think I really ever thought about if it would be a good fit for me. But once I went to college and I started pursuing music, I kind of got into this routine of practicing piano and composing, and I realized that I wanted to keep doing those things after I graduated and kind of focus my energy there. And I just didn't think that would be compatible with a traditional office job that demanded like so much time. So when I was in grad school, I actually paid my tuition by driving to people's houses and teaching piano lessons. So I thought maybe I would continue that after I graduated. It gave me my mornings and my early afternoons to myself, and then I'd spend the afternoon working, which I thought was a very good life-work balance. I also took on some sporadic gigs accompanying. A little disclaimer that I'm not 100% self-employed. I do take on these accompanying gigs here and there, but I do think that falls under the larger umbrella of self-employment, like finding these gigs that I can take on occasionally to supplement my main income of being a piano teacher. So my personal favorite perk of being self-employed is having more control over my time. So in my line of work, I have my morning and my early afternoon to myself. I do try to kind of stick to a schedule so that way I can still be productive, but that time is my own to do what I want with it, and I love that about being self-employed. Sometimes people will ask me, like, what do you do with all that time in the morning? And I feel like it goes by so quickly. I have like a little bit of time to compose. I have to get my meals in. I like to get in a workout. And then there are also just things I have to get done for my work during that time too. I have to schedule students. I have to update my Excel spreadsheet. And since I'm an accompanist, it's really important that I practice too. I can't just be showing up to rehearsals unprepared. But I do have a lot of flexibility. I can meet up with a friend for coffee. I could go on a little walk or a hike. I could go out to lunch. Like, I love having that time just to myself. Number 2 on my list is that I get to de-center work in my life. I still see work as very necessary. It's something I need to do to pay the bills. And I'm grateful for every new client I get or every new accompanying gig I get, because that means greater financial security for me. But I don't center my life around work. I think it's very common in our society to make work the most important thing. People begin to like really identify with their jobs. Like, someone could say like, I'm a teacher or a doctor or a lawyer. And that's not a bad thing if you take pride in it, but it just goes to show how heavily we like base our identities around work. Like, yes, I'm technically a piano teacher, but I don't really think about it that way. I think of myself as someone who teaches piano for work, but I'm also a composer, I'm also a pianist. I also love to cook, and I like to go on walks, and there's so much more about me than my job. Instead of centering my work, I can center my passions and my hobbies. I can center self-care. I can center my relationships, and I love that about being self-employed. Number 3 on my list is probably the most subjective, and it's that I don't have to see other people first thing in the morning. As an introvert, I really appreciate this. I remember it was a bit of a struggle for me when I was younger, actually, like having to wake up really early for school and having to navigate social relationships before I was even like fully awake. It kind of like started the day off on the wrong foot for me. I was stressed and anxious, and I wasn't really productive because I was kind of in like fight or flight mode a little bit. It's completely the opposite now. Like, my mornings are the most peaceful, relaxing time of my day. I'm not rushing to get anywhere. I feel very creative, and I can spend time composing. By the time the afternoon rolls around, I'm definitely ready to get out of the house and to see other people. So I think it's a really good balance. The number 4 benefit on my list is that you don't have to deal with authority. If you're someone who struggles with authority or navigating like hierarchical relationships, I hope I said that right, then being self-employed might be a good option for you. I used to work a lot of wage jobs. I worked at Starbucks, I worked as a lifeguard, I've even worked as a server in restaurants. I kind of like struggled with navigating relationships with my managers. I think for the most part, even though I was like very cooperative and agreeable, I didn't really have this intuitive understanding of how hierarchical relationships really worked, and I kind of just treated everyone the same, and that doesn't necessarily fly in a lot of work environments. If a manager's being sassy with you, you can't just be sassy back. One of the things I really love about being self-employed is, I work for myself. I don't have to deal with trying to like navigate those relationships anymore. I also really like that I don't have to ask permission to do anything. I don't have to ask for vacation days. I don't have to ask for time off. I don't have to ask for sick leave. If I want to do any of those things, I just tell my clients. And my last and fifth benefit to being self-employed is you can't really lose your job. There could be like slower days, slower weeks where you're not making as much money. You could lose clients, but you can't ever completely lose your job. And I think that's a concern a lot of people face. Like, we're kind of like at the beginning of a recession. AI is taking over a lot of jobs. And also I think fear of job loss is what creates this like very uneven power dynamic between like employer and employee. I feel like I have a very equal power dynamic with my clients. Like, for example, if I was very lazy and I was showing up late for piano lessons, canceling all the time, just being flaky, a client could decide they don't want me as a piano teacher anymore. But conversely, if I was dealing with a parent who was very pushy or demanding, or someone who was flaking and canceling all the time and putting my financial security at risk, or even if I was just dealing with a particularly difficult student who wouldn't listen to me, like, I could drop them as a client and find a better fit. So I feel like it's a very like equal power dynamic between me and my students. So there are a lot of benefits to being self-employed. I could go on, but these are my top 5. There are downsides as well, so I might make a video on that. But overall, I wouldn't trade it for anything. Thank you for stopping by.